I'm Ronnie Stidvent. I'm the director of the Center for Politics and Governance, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our fall forum as we try to understand who's right, who's left, and what's next in Texas politics and policy. I see a lot of familiar faces, but many of you are new to the center, and in part that's because the center is new. We launched just a little over a year ago to fulfill President Johnson's vision of a center that teaches political leadership. And our mission is to be the nexus of the theoretical and practical in the teaching of politics and political leadership. Not simply how to master the existing system, but how to make it function more effectively to achieve better results and outcomes for everyone. We set out to achieve this mission in a nonpartisan way by providing a forum for substantive debate, by developing courses and generating ideas, and by hosting leading policymakers and practitioners to teach and engage our community. We've had a very busy first year. I won't go into all the details. I hope that you all will take a moment to review the materials here today, visit our website, and sign up for our mailing list. As we turn to today's conference, we look at the outcome of the 2008 elections and what this means for the political landscape in the state. And as the state confronts important issues like healthcare, education, and the changing 21st century economy, we ask, what's the way forward? These are the issues we began to discuss and debate today. We will continue to analyze them. With today's conference, we launch our state policy and politics initiatives led by former state Representative Sherry Greenberg, our newest fellow at the center. Under her leadership, we will build relationships with state government officials and provide timely analysis and information on the many issues confronting the state. So without further ado, let's start today's program by welcoming today's morning speaker, Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. The Lieutenant...
I've got one friend over here.
The Lieutenant Governor is a native Texan, proud veteran, successful businessman, and rancher. As President of the Senate, he has presided over 3 regular sessions and 7 special sessions, working to pass legislation to create new jobs and economic opportunity, improve schools, and protect public safety. In the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks, Governor Perry appointed Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst as chairman of the Governor's Task Force on Homeland Security. After completing public hearings around the state, the task force prepared one of the most comprehensive reports in the nation, focusing on detecting, deterring, and responding to terrorist attacks. The Lieutenant Governor began his business career in the mid-'70s after serving as an officer in the U.S. Air Force, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the U.S. State Department. And many of you may not know that he is also a rodeo star. So with that, let me turn it over to Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, it was kind of funny. I almost turned this over. I'm not Evan Smith, but anyway, we'll leave that alone. The rodeo star. Well, you're very kind, Ronnie. I'll tell you a story. I'm actually not a rodeo star. I'm probably the only, I've got to be the only lieutenant governor in history that rides roping horses and cutting horses. And I'm so good. Last year in 2007, if you end up at the end of the year in the top 50 money earners, you get to go to the World Finals, which is Amarillo in February. I don't really remember a song by that name, but it's Amarillo in February. And lest you get overly impressed, to end up in the top 50, I think I was 11th for the year last year, and I had earned $11,000, and it only cost me $75. So I am a really good businessman. But I'm such a good rodeo star, I went into the World Finals in 11th place. And ladies, it's amazing what motivates a grown man, all right? If you end up in the top 15, now this is really important, you get a huge belt buckle, all right? So I was thinking, man, this is a piece of cake. I'm there, you know? Come in 11th, all I have to do is just, go in there, I end up 16th place. So anyway, I thought I'd keep my day job in the meantime. I was asked to talk a little bit about Tuesday's night election, what it means, to talk about some future trends, elections in Texas, to talk about the 2009 legislative session, all in 10 and a half minutes. So I don't know that I'll be able to do that, but I shall try. First of all, golly, I was just talking to President Powers. What a sad loss that was on Saturday night. You know, I made the mistake. He has schooled me. I called President Powers right after Texas scored with 1:29. He's in the end zone, and so I catch him on his cell phone, and I said, Bill, David. He said, Governor. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching the game on TV. I said, don't let him score, okay? I jinxed him. I will never call him again. All right, but that was a great game. That was a great game. My staff wrote out a speech for me, but I'm not going to give that speech because I'm still, in my own mind, thinking through all that's happened over literally the last 2 years and trends and certainly what happened on Tuesday night and what all that means. You're going to hear a number of speakers today. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson, I think at lunch, Mayor Bill White, I think later on this afternoon. So certainly you'll get some different perspectives, 3 different people, 3 different styles, maybe 3 different insights, maybe not, maybe not. But this has obviously been an incredible, historic campaign. 21 months of campaigning, 125 million Americans who voted, 8 million Americans voted right here, Texans voted right here in Texas. Probably one of the largest turnouts we've had, 8 million out of roughly 12.5 million registered voters in Texas. Early voting was a phenomenon. Early voting. We had about 65% of all the voters voted early. You know, 42 million people watched Obama and McCain accept their nominations. Roughly $1 billion was raised by President-elect Obama, by Senator McCain over that 21-month period. Incredible. And an historic evening. And I give nothing but compliments to Senator Obama and his campaign. Very disciplined, very smart man, very thoughtful. And there's no but. But it's interesting, at least from my perspective, to watch. I've watched presidential campaigns over the years, and probably next week I'll have a few different thoughts than I do today. But what impresses me is the American people truly wanted to see change. Now, I'm not terribly sure they all know what that means, but they wanted to see change. They wanted, going stacked against McCain, obviously, was the president's low favorable rating. Stacked against McCain are 2 wars in which we're fighting simultaneously in Afghanistan and Iraq. And therefore, Obama created, at least in my mind, an interesting phenomenon. Early on, and I was wrong, early on I thought, and she agreed with me, that Hillary Clinton would make short order of Barack Obama. I was wrong. He turned out to be a far different candidate, far more able, far more disciplined than I think Hillary Clinton thought, and I believe a lot of us thought. So that ultimately, obviously, Obama won the nomination. And as he was winning the nomination, I remember saying to myself, the cards are stacked against McCain. I know McCain. I've had a chance over the years to meet Hillary Clinton a number of times. She's a very impressive person. I have no reason to think Obama wouldn't be equally or more impressive. I know McCain. I've traveled with him. He's been down to Texas for me in the past to campaign for me. A very fine man. So you have it in a presidential election, two extraordinary Americans. Obviously an historic election for a variety of reasons, but two qualified men from different backgrounds, both believing in wanting to make America even better. And not to take anything away from Senator Obama, but my take on the election is that although this has been an historic election, and I'm waiting with bated breath to see what the president-elect does, since it looks like he's going back to some of the more partisan Clinton members in the Clinton years, although he was talking about bipartisanship. And I hope he focuses on bipartisanship. But presidential elections, to me, are reactions to the past and a vision for the future. Obama was talking about a vision for the future in change and a reaction to the past. If we go back a few years, Admiral Inman can remember this, and I can. By the way, Admiral, delighted to see you, sir. But let's go back a number of years. 1960. Who won that election? Obviously, John F. Kennedy over Richard Nixon. Why? I think for a variety of reasons, because Kennedy had a vision, and he was young, and he was exciting, and he had ideas, and he could express them better. And we'd had 8 years, a pretty good administration, most people thought, under President Eisenhower, but a dynamic young man, and he won that election. And why did LBJ beat Goldwater? Because people were scared of Goldwater. And so you see it, you see movement. Classic movement was in 1982, when we saw people being tired of kind of bumbling with Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan came in, and when people got comfortable. Remember early on, first debate, second debate, they weren't that comfortable with Reagan, but by the time Reagan said, "Now, Mr. President, there you go again," people were starting to get comfortable with Ronald Reagan and his background. And it was interesting, during that time period, between 1982, between 1980 and 1988, you had a phenomena that we've seen just recently. You had more young people, 18 to 25, identify with the Republican Party than ever during the previous decade or two. Just the opposite happening over the last 2 years under Obama. You were seeing Jewish voters move towards Reagan, as they have historically since that time under Clinton and over the last 2 decades. So you found an attractive person in Reagan. You found an attractive person, obviously, in 1992 in Bill Clinton versus someone that I think we all admire, and that's George H.W. Bush. And so what happened, I believe, during the primary is at the end of the day, people started to get comfortable with Barack Obama versus Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton represented part of the past, and Obama was the future. Now, the problem that I see going forward is, what does that change represent? And again, I'm not being partisan today. I'm a proud Republican, but one of the things we all need to pay attention to is what they do now. For instance, when Obama had a article in the Wall Street Journal, was it Monday? McCain had one, I think it was Monday. And I was reading both of the 2 articles. And in Obama's article, it said, if you got health insurance right now, we want to lower the premiums. If you don't have health insurance, we want to make sure everybody has the same health insurance that we in Congress have. If you want to go to college, we want to make sure that you can go to college. I believe that Obama is going to have to move to the center and govern, but he's going to be pulled to the left on his promises. But I hope his nature keeps him centrist. Because you've got a lot of people out there that believe that they heard that they're going to get free health care. They're going to have the government helping them to go more financial aid to be able to go to college. And the policy wonk in me, as lieutenant governor, there probably hasn't been a lieutenant governor in modern history, and it's one of my strengths and one of my weaknesses. I understand, and I work 7 days a week to try and make the policy, try and make the state work. And so every time when I hear these promises, my head is spinning, and how much is that going to cost? And how do you do this? And what kind of effect is it going to have? Let me just give you an example. We've got a $14 trillion economy in America. Our current federal budget's about $1.3 trillion. The OMB put a price tag on what Obama was talking about. I'm not saying he offered all of this for free, but a lot of people heard him or thought he was offering it for free, $1.7 trillion. Now, even if half of that is being pushed forward, you're talking about dramatically expanding the federal budget by 50%, particularly during a time in which we're going through tough economic times, in which consumer confidence, normal 100, is running in the Northeast at 14. It's running in the Rust Belt states at 20. Unemployment numbers are going up. October was a tough month all around the country. Retailers are concerned about Christmas. We're in pretty good shape here, and I want to talk more about Texas in a minute, contrast. But we've seen flatness now for the first time. Just our October numbers in Texas are showing that our retail sales are flattening. Our sales tax collections are down for the first time in some 3 years compared to a year ago. Now, and we're still running about a 70-75% confidence level, consumer confidence level. So as we look forward, this is a tricky economy. And I think there's plenty of things that this new administration can do. There's also plenty of blame to go around. There's no question in my mind that the administration dropped the ball in a number of different areas. They absolutely pulled back from regulation, and we had greed going rampant. These security-backed mortgages have really hurt our economy. They were sold multiple times with through financial instruments. Subprime lending mortgages got pushed in to raise the yield. Numbers I'm seeing is that in 2005, the mortgage-backed securities had about 5% subprime, which jumped the yield. The next year, 2006, 20%. Next year, 2007, some 40%. So this has created a worldwide avalanche of financial problems. And all of these are falling on the shoulders of this new administration, which has to work it out. I mean, after all, the Democrats have been in control in the Senate and the House now for 2 years. Obama was the #1 recipient of money from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So we're all in this together. Even Greenspan was saying just the other day, apologizing, for not providing more monitoring of the market. So the next year or two are going to be critical years. This, in many ways, was a midterm election for Republicans. In 2010, it's going to be a midterm election for Republicans. I want to talk about, I don't know how much time I have, Ronnie, but what I would like to do is talk about this legislative session in just a moment. Let me just very, very brief about my look forward over the next couple of years politically. I'm not sure in Texas the Republican brand has been hurt. I'm not sure in Texas the Democrat brand has been hurt. What we've seen Tuesday night is a continuation of slightly changing demographics in the state. There's no question but the Democrat Party is going to get stronger in Texas. It's stronger today than it was a few years ago. McCain still beat Obama in Texas by some 12 points, which is a virtual landslide, 56-44. We saw Democrats win. We've seen one right now. There's another open seat. There's a runoff in the Texas Senate. We've seen one seat be picked up in Arlington by Wendy Davis. I met with her yesterday. Very nice lady. We saw the Democrats pick up 3 seats in the House, 6 seats where Democrats beat Republicans, 3 seats where Republicans beat Democrats. There's still some vote counting going on. How do I interpret that? Since you've asked me to be here, well-run campaigns still win. Best candidates still win. At the end of the day, this is a center-right state. And conservative Democrats, centrist to the right Republicans win elections in Texas, I think. And that's not taking anything away from my friend Dan Patrick. But by and large, this state is right of center to conservative, but well-run campaigns will continue to be successful. And so I expect to see over the years the Democrats give up some seats, the Republicans give up some seats. So it's going to be back and forth. It's going to be more of a contest. And again, at the end of the day, it's who is a better candidate, who better represents the views of the district and or the state of Texas. As we go into this next session, we've got some challenges in front of us. My friend, the speaker, I'm still working on him to teach him that there's a difference between increase in revenues and surplus. We're not running a $15 billion surplus. We have arguably a surplus. I'd much rather be in the position that we are in Texas than I would be in Florida, which is virtually broke, California, which is broke. California running a $16-17 billion deficit this year, on top of a $15 billion deficit that they ran last year. Now, to build power is $31 billion isn't a lot of money, but to me, that's a lot of money. Let me use those 2 states in Texas as an example. And one of the challenges we all have as being interested in public policy and being in charge of the Senate and your lieutenant governor. And that is, over the next 20 years, 49.5% of the entire population growth in the entire country occurs in 3 states: Florida, California, Texas. We've now been able to pick up enough Fortune 500 companies. Headquarters have now moved out of California, that we have more Fortune 500 headquarters located in Texas than any other state. Should that make a difference? It makes a difference only to the extent that, is this a good place to locate a company, to create more jobs? At the end of the day, we've got to create more jobs, continue to build jobs. Why? Folks, everyone has heard about Texas. It's no secret anymore. We are the fastest growing state population-wise in the country. And so we have 2 choices. We either sit back, we reverse what we've done, we lose jobs in a recession, we let a national recession affect us in Texas, or we don't. And we work real hard to keep growing jobs, keep improving public education, higher education, improving our infrastructure. I vote for the latter rather than the former. I don't know about you all. My hope is that we can keep a lot of the bad news around the country at bay. And we can do that if we continue to create jobs and we keep our consumer confidence high. Take a look at most of the exit data, Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania. 9 out of 10 people thought the economy was the #1 issue. 8 out of 10 were concerned about the future. Here in Texas, we've got to make sure that we keep this economy going. How do we do that? When the economy turns down, the last thing we all want to be doing is raising taxes and decreasing the amount of investment in new jobs and job creation. So, as I look out over the next several years, and I haven't had a chance to talk with my senators about it. I'm not trying to make news today. Senator Kirk Watson, I think I walked in with him. He's somewhere here, and I haven't had a chance to visit with him yet. But in the 2007 session, I saw this coming, and I wish I was wrong. But I made the legislature in 2007, the night before we went into session in January 2007, almost 2 years ago. I brought all the senators in, I put a chart up, and I said, folks, we can't get out of Dodge alive unless we save some money. What we did, and I warned everybody, is that when we cut local school property taxes by a third, $14.2 billion, we picked up $14.2 billion. This is me representing you, but when we, representing you, picked up local school property taxes of $14.2 billion, expecting this new business tax, which incidentally for business people in the room was not my first choice, was not my second choice, okay. Expecting that to generate $8 billion, and right now, as late as yesterday in my meeting with the Comptroller Combs, is generating about $6. We've got a we've created a structural, and I told John Sharp this, and I pleaded with him, let's not go in this direction, but no one listened. We've got a structural hole of about $8 billion, $8 billion. The only reason that we're not facing a deficit today is, and it's not me, my colleagues in the Senate agreed reluctantly, but our colleagues in the House agreed, but we saved $7.5 billion, unheard of in the Texas legislature, which historically spends everything that they have. So we saved that. So we're sitting with a slight surplus so that we can put more money into one of my favorite, most important passions, and that's public education and higher education. Last year, I stood up in front of the press and said, no one else is doing it, so I'm going to champion higher education. So we put $1.5 billion new money. We put $2.7 billion over the last 3 years into higher education. We put $1.9 billion of new capital construction. So you put those two numbers together, and you're talking about 6 billion dollars, and so that's a tremendous amount of money. We put $5.2 billion of new money into public education, raising standards, raising teacher salaries, putting incentive money into the system. So we got some challenges in front of us, but we're probably going to have to tighten the belt a little bit, because now I'm looking at the 2011 session. Here's the problem. How much is our economy going to grow? If any one of you all have a crystal ball, I promise I'll take you to Eddie V's this evening for dinner, maybe even tomorrow night. I don't know. So right now I got my staff as of yesterday afternoon running scenarios, 1% growth per year, 2%, 3%, 4%, because where we are in our expenditures, I can try and hold hold government down. And lest, if you just happen to be Democrat, let me clear up something. I'm a firm believer that government's got a responsibility to take care of people that truly, truly can't help themselves. And I'm the one, I mean, you probably don't understand me. Lieutenant Governor, rides roping horses. 2003 session, I'm the one that said we're not going to eliminate the CHIP program. We're not going to cut back on Medicaid or my dead cold political body. We ain't going to do that. You know, we have an obligation to take care of people. We have an obligation to put more money. We put in $500 million in 2003, more money into higher education. We've got obligations, but we got to be careful how we handle this going forward. Medicaid is costing us about 11% increase a year for a third of the budget. And so you can do the math. When you take 2/3 of the budget, and if that's 2 or 4% growth, you take 11% on a third, and you start to average. And if our economy's only going to go up, say, 2% the next year or two, we're going to find ourselves in a deficit in 2011 unless we really use our heads. And so one of the unfortunate things I'm working on right now, which is going to upset some of my dear Democrat friends, is we got to use our heads. Let's look through, how do we stretch dollars, what kind of how do we fund the programs that we need to fund? And then I got to tell my Republican friends, hey, we're not going to have money to send back to lower locals to lower property taxes. We got to do what's right. We got to put the people of Texas ahead. So our challenges are to continue to improve public education. As we end teaching to the TOX test, I'm hoping to be able to move some of that money out of administration and put it back into teacher salaries. I'm convinced that we've got to pay our good teachers more and hold on to our good teachers. We have a brain drain. We lose half of our good teachers the second or third year. I'm convinced that we've got to help our 2 flagship universities do more for our universities and open the door through matching grants, things of this nature. We're still working on it. A 3rd tier 1 and a 4th tier 1. I'm convinced that we've got to invest in research. I'm convinced that we've got to build more highways. And I'm convinced that we've got to figure out how to take care of the people that need care in our society. Let me just leave one with what I think tantalizing little thought with you. A lot of people throw their hands up and say, we can't do anything about Medicaid. It's a federal program. All of that is true. But that's why I wrote and passed Senate Bill 10 last year to look at waivers, block grants, how do we use our money more effectively. Let me just share one thing with you, and then I'm sure my time's up. But I'll make that one comment short so that hopefully you'll be able to listen. And that is, what's the country in the world that spends the second most per capita on health care? Switzerland. Some years it's Luxembourg, sometimes it's Switzerland. All the other countries in Western Europe, Scandinavia, Canada, Japan, Singapore, South Korea spend less per capita. Who spends more? The United States, by factor 2. Now, that has been, I've been working on that the whole year. Why do all these countries, and I'm not recommending universal care, how do all these countries cover everybody in their country? And we can't seem to do it. We got 5.6 million uninsured here in Texas. How do we do that? And it's because, as I've gotten into it, virtually every other country, developed country in the world, pays for outcomes, prevention. So what I'm working on with my staff is, how do we work with our good doctors? How do we come up with a system in which we can incentivize doctors, where we can focus on prevention, disease management, keeping people out of the hospitals. In a perfect world, paying our hospitals more but lowering occupancy, paying our good doctors more, providing coverage for virtually everybody in our society so everyone has access to affordable health care. Those are the challenges, huge challenges that we're facing. And as our population, let me add one more thing. As our population doubles in the next 25 years, as in the next 10 years, when we add 8 to 9 to 10 million more people, we're going to have to turn those challenges into opportunities. We're going to need, in the next 9 or 10 years, we need a third more public school teachers. We're going to need a third more public schools. We're going to need a third more university professors. We're going to need a third more capacity on our universities. We're going to need maybe 40% more highways. And how do we get all of that done? In a state which has historically refused taxes. Historically, almost every state in the country has an appetite for tax, about 15% of disposable personal income. Here in Texas, it's run about 13%, about 15% less. How do we do that? Those are the challenges facing all of us as we want to improve public education, improve higher education, provide better health care for everyone, and make Texas even a greater place to live, raise a family, and to grow a business. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me come by with you today and share my humble thoughts with you and some of my challenges and priorities for this next session. Thank you so much.